let's see what we can do. Maybe we can cause some good mischief. Welcome to podcast number 1 of What in the World. I'm your host, Alan Weber from Santa Fe, New Mexico. With me are some of the best minds in the world. I'm thinking of something John Kennedy said years ago when he had Nobel Prize winners in the White House. He said it was the greatest collection of minds in the White House since one evening when Thomas Jefferson dined alone. And I think we've got the same lineup here. We've got people from all over the globe, from Scandinavia, from Brazil, from Singapore, from Austria. We're missing our dear friend Adrian in the UK. He'll be with us in the future, but this is a different kind of show. This is not a panel discussion. This is not a news show. This is people talking about what they know, who they are, what they make of what's going on in their part of the world and around the world. So very quickly, let's do a whip around and everybody introduce themselves, like 30 seconds, who you are, where you are, and why we love you dearly. Ufi, who are you and where are you?
I'm sitting in my private house here in Copenhagen, and outside in my backyard, there's beautiful spring weather. So it's a good moment right now for me personally, but also professionally. Who am I? I'm very close to be 72 years old. A gay man that has actually 2 grown-up sons and 5 grandkids. And I've been living my life as a system builder, you could call it that. Building movements, organizations, higher educational institutions, and even a political party. So I've been doing a lot about how can we create building blocks to the new system. But at the same time, I've been also inside the old system as a MP, member of the Danish Parliament, as part of a cabinet, as Minister for Culture, and also as party leader for the Green Party in Denmark called the Alternative. So I'm an outsider with insight experienced, so to speak. And I'm really, really happy to see all you guys, even if we're a bunch of very old white guys around from the world. Just to say that there's a lot of voices missing here, but what is present is friendship and a long life together, and we've witnessed each other's life through our journey through life. So I'm looking forward for the conversation.
Thanks, Ufe. And Thomas, you're in Austria. Who are you and why are you here?
I'm in Austria, in my country lodge, 1 hour away from Vienna. In my professional life, I'm a management consultant. I have a consulting company based on purpose-driven management. Our clients is a mix of international clients and local clients, from retail to finance to cultural organizations. I have a background in the whole Europe. I worked in London, in Eastern Europe for a long time. And since 3 years, I'm the voluntary and honorable president of an NGO which is doing development aid in Africa. So I'm quite often in Africa now, so I can know a lot about development aid and how difficult and challenging that is. And I know Alan from a couple of works we did together in think tanks in Upper Austria, back in the World Cell times 20 years ago, and Stift Melk, where we gathered together the Dalai Lama and many Nobel Prize winners and other people who thought that they bring some good into life and into the future. Since this was 20 years ago, they were not so successful.
Well, we're not ready to confess yet, Thomas. We're still working on it.
Okay.
Tony in Singapore, come on, talk to me.
Hey everyone, this is Tony here. It's 9 p.m. over in Singapore, so making sure the darkness is clear for everyone to see. I am 56, probably the youngest of the group, so that feels good.
Yes, Tony, but you live hard, so you're a hard 56.
I'm a hard 56. And I was thinking how to introduce myself, and I was thinking that I have very much been an industry explorer. I've worked in tourism. I've been in media, I've been in real estate, I've been in education, and currently a little bit of volunteering and philanthropy, connecting with NGOs, global organizations like World Vision, as well as local governmental entities as well. I have had a chance to be in consulting. I've had a chance to hang out in San Francisco, in Copenhagen, in Vienna, Austria, everywhere except with my friend in Brazil. So I will see you soon, Oscar.
Ah, go Tony. And like Ufi, you're a design thinker. That's part of your bag of tricks. Jan, Jan in Sweden, talk to us from Stockholm.
From Stockholm, we share the good weather with Copenhagen. Nothing much is happening when there is good weather in Stockholm. Everyone is sitting out, not thinking about world leaders or business, but just wondering whether they will see the first migrating birds come back again. As someone said when he was told that our migrating birds are coming back, he said, and he was from a foreign country, "Who says it's your birds?"
And
Um,
I go ahead, Jan. What else is going on in Stockholm?
not much, not much. But we'll come back to that. But I'll introduce myself. I don't know if I'm senior to all of you. I'm 84 by now, and enjoying good health, which cannot be said about all 84 years, unfortunately. I've done almost as much as all of you combined. I've been a management consultant. I've been publisher. I've an executive with Scandinavian Airlines. I have spent 8 years in Black Africa working for the United Nations Development Program. So I've been around a little, and I even spent 3 long years in Texas. So I've listened, but I don't know if I've heard. Right now, I'm enjoying sitting in my summer cottage, looking out over the Baltic, and I'm struck, very much struck by the lack of bird life. Not one bird in sight. What happened to them after Silent Spring? What happened to all the birds? I'm very worried about the environmental issues, but we'll come back to that.
Thank you. You and I met at Bretton Woods, I believe, and
Yeah.
and there are many people who believe it's time for another Bretton Woods, but we'll talk about that later. Oscar, talk to us from Brazil.
Okay, so as you can all see, Alan and I, we are twin brothers because we have conducted some events here together, and so the audience wanted to learn how much time we've been talking, and working together. So who am I? I'm founder and CEO of a large consulting company, Amanake. And so the purpose of our organization is very explicit in our slogan: radical innovation in management, strategy, and leadership for a better future for all. So the for all is for the common good, including all the living beings. So this is the purpose of our company, and we completed 50 years now. And I've been working with many international organizations. I was co-chairman of the Earth Charter Council and I stayed with them for more than 12 years. And also I did some workshops for UNESCO in the World Meeting in Japan. and I also was the president of the as a jury for the evaluation of projects around the world in the sustainability area. So I was president for 5 years of that jury. And also, one thing that is different about us is that we invited more than 140 specialists from the world into Brazil. That's how I met Alan. So he was one of the experts we invited to Brazil. So even as we go for international experts, we always go for the best. So that's how we invited even Peter Drucker to our programs. Several prizes in all fields, even in economy, Paul Krugman, Jeffrey Sachs, and the others. So this is one thing that characterizes us. But one thing that characterizes us is that we aim at solving impossible equations. When everybody is saying it's impossible, we like it and we want the project. And we did a lot of projects for the government and also for private companies. So we have this experience. And right now, seeing what's going on in the world, we decided to put the word impossible equation on our table. So we are starting a reinvention of our own company, aiming at global problems. So this is what we do.
Thank you. That's why I think this is a great group of people. Ufi's right. I mean, there's no women in our group at the moment, and there we are all, with the exception of Tony, who is just a young person at heart. We're all a bunch of old geezers, but that's okay. We got a lot to offer. So let me jump into a quick. I just want to do a quick check in about local information. What if you had to pick one thing that is the burning issue in your neck of the woods, your part of the world? We'll get to the world view in a minute, but I want to go local first. If I were in any one of your communities, what's the one thing everybody is talking about or should be talking about right now? If I picked up the paper, turned on the news, read the internet, looked at my news feed, what's happening that everybody needs to know about? Tony, what's the big fire, the big flames in Singapore right now?
The big issue here locally for Singapore is very much around health and the elderly. We're getting to a quick aging society, and we don't have the land to have those kind of nursing homes that is able to be built out. So those have not worked, and now the government is looking at how existing estates, housing estates that we have, could be repurposed to be aging well neighborhoods. That means bringing more services into the neighborhoods instead of having them get to hospitals. With the land scarce Singapore that we stand on, hospitals, we can't have enough, we can't build more of them as well. So this means having a lot more integrated services where even nurses and doctors will actually get into your homes and be able to look after you for your daily needs, medical needs, anything short of a real surgery or anything short of a cardiac arrest, right? And that's been taking on front page because it's been a big movement because it affects property prices, and obviously people do not like the idea that if their asset prices are going to go down if their neighborhood is termed as a aging well neighborhood. So there's going to be some of that little tension that goes on as the local government deals with that conversation.
Interesting. So social policy first and foremost, health, well-being, and the impact on economics and neighborhoods. Ufi,
Yeah.
what's the big Copenhagen event right now? What are people talking about?
I would like to say that for sure the climate crisis and connected to this, the whole way of understanding economic and growth. But actually, I would highlight another subject, and that is that we just had a national election just recently, and we still don't have a government in place because it's a really tough process to figure out who should govern in Denmark for the next coming years. And the reason for that is that we have voted in 12 different political parties in the parliament. And in a way, what is behind that is a kind of a pattern you see many places. We have just had the local election in UK. Now our UK friend is not present, but I was really curious to hear his opinion on that. But you see that the voters is going in very different directions. And one thing is that we have so many political parties in the Danish parliament, but I think it highlights underlying more principal question is still political parties the best organizational framework for political engagement? And why is it that, at least in Denmark, so few wants to be a member of a political party? It's less than 2% of the Danish population who's member of a political party. So if you want to frame it really black and white, you could say that we have a 2% democracy. And actually, you could question how would a 98% democracy look like? How can we get so many more citizens to be involved in the political discussion and the political process and decision process? How could a country, how could a society look like if it was a 98% democracy? So the big discussion now was just on national TV in a debate 2 days ago, and talked about why is it there's such a lack of desire to look into how we organize politics as we do it today. Why do we think that we have the most perfect, at least in Denmark, we think we have reached the top of how to organize democracy, and every change in that structure would look like that we're going down, which is completely crazy because there's so many other ways to involve people. And my opinion, we should talk about how can we go from representative democracy to a much more involved democracy, and how should we then organize our political life around that purpose. So right now we're discussing in Denmark while we're waiting for a new government. Actually, how could democracy look like? How could a 98% democracy look like instead of a 2% democracy? That's what's on my mind these days.
Well, you and I share one thing, which we always thought that we've always talked about questions being more important than answers. If you ask the right question, at least you're in the right area. And I think you've asked a great question. And it's shocking in a way to learn that there's an inability to form a government. That's but although we have our own version of that in the United States, where the Congress seems not to be able to be a government. So we have a government, it just doesn't function. Jan, what is there a burning platform issue in Sweden at the moment?
Most is really non-issues of any significance. There is upcoming parliamentary elections. Who cares? There are two blocks. They're almost equal in size, and who wins and who loses is not important. We share Ufe's picture of an almost perfect society. We're so happy, fat cats. No big real issues. We get our food on the table, and we worry about a little lack of rainwater in the island of Gotland or whatever. it's very sad. We are turning into a country of mediocrity that way, because what was more interesting, I think, is to discuss what's not on the front page, what should be on the front page. And let's get back to that.
Fair enough. I have to ask you one question about what we hear in the U.S. about Sweden. Is immigration as big an issue for you all as it sounds like it has been? You let people in, now is there a backlash against that?
There was, I think it's subsiding, but we depend on the immigration for the workforce. We, like many other Western countries, don't seem to grow in all Swedish population. So we allow immigrants to take the jobs that we cannot man ourselves. Most immigrants are well integrated, so it's a media hype to a degree, and on top of that, exploited by left wing and right wing, both of them, political parties.
Yeah, thanks. Oscar, same question to you, not about immigration, about the Brazilian news. What's the burning platform in Brazil? What are people most talking about when you go out on an evening, when you go to a restaurant, a coffee shop? What's the top of mind for people in Brazil?
Ethics, ethics, values, conflict of interests in all society, including government, including the three power systems, executive, legislative, and also the judiciary. So we see lack of ethics everywhere. So then populations start to doubt the value of institutions, which is very dangerous because you don't have anything to hang on, something that bring us stability. So this is the conversation all over, on the newspapers also, on the front page, just using an expression that was utilized. But the problem on our perspective is how to resolve it. So this is the big question. So one thing is to just, have intelligent conversations in restaurants about ethics, about the institutions, about private companies that are growing their profits as never, because of also the interest rates, etc. It's speculation, and all this is the big issue. But people don't talk about how to solve it. And we are saying this is an impossible equations, but who is going to resolve it? Just one person? Not at all. The society as a whole. So what we are saying is we have to bring up citizenship into this society. Otherwise, problems will continue to grow. So this is the big issue here in Brazil. In
Thank
election year,
Yeah, thank you.
this
Thomas, saving the best for last. Yeah, Austria is at the crossroads of Europe and the world, and place where people come together to. The UN comes. You were saying earlier, spies used to come. What are people talking about in Austria right now? There's some themes going around. Are they true in Austria?
Yes, I think the symptom is probably inflation, but the reasons behind inflation are the reasons for the crisis. And there is the war in the Ukraine already now 4 years. There's the new war in Iran, which is a problem for the energy market in Germany and in Austria, and the Austrian economy is very dependent on the German economy. And then there's still the aftermath of COVID, because there was too much state intervention into COVID and subsidizing with huge state budgets for businesses and for people, which grew inflation. And the thing is, with inflation, inflation is an acid poison for society. I'm now working since 38 years, and it's the first time in my professional life that I have to deal with inflation. And I'm, as my consulting company, we have a variety of companies, from retail, banking, cultural institutions, political parties, and so forth. And I remember when I was a kid, there was a high inflation in the oil crisis in the 70s, where people were not allowed to drive on one day, and there was special plaques on the cars where you couldn't drive. You could choose one day where we were not allowed to drive. And as a kid, it was fun. I didn't really understand the background or the problem with it. But now, inflation means different contracts with working people. Prices are going up. Long-term contracts struggle, etc. So that's it's a real issue, and this is combined with the fact that the old social contract, where Austria was always very proud of, that people from different backgrounds, from different classes, to use this bad word, working class people and production people with production, or industrialists, we were always, in the end, found a common ground on the table, and the social contract is gone. I mean, there is really, the bridges are broke down, and it's very difficult to rebuild them. There's a lot of mistrust in society. Media is gone. The fourth pillar of democracy is just not existing anymore, basically. And then there's a lack of the fourth pillar, because social media is not a democratic pillar. Advertising money is going to the US. More than 50% of advertising money, which fueled the democracy, the fourth pillar of democracy, is now not staying in the country, but is going to Google and Meta and to the classical internet companies of the United States. There is which is a big topic, the dependency of internet services and cloud services of the US. The trust to the US is gone, which is, if you would have said that 4 years ago, I would have said you were absolutely crazy to even mention that. But the fact, the dependency on Microsoft, on Amazon, in the cloud services, in banking, in hospitality, in the hospitals, in traffic, in basically all parts of society, Mr. Trump can switch off the plug, and that's a fact that it's a real danger, and then the whole defense story. I mean, Europe was proud having peace since the Second World War, 80 years, and now it's rearming. And rearmed Germany in history taught us it's not a very good idea. I mean, obviously, Germany is very, very different than 80 years ago, and very, very different than 200 or 300, 400 years ago. But it's arms. Once you rearm a society, they're getting used once in a while. That's the problem. And the whole attitude starts to change. People are going to the army. The way armies and soldiers are seen in a society is different. The only country in Europe where this was different was the UK, because of they were always on the right side of the wars, basically, at least until the Second World War. And in Germany and in Austria, and even also in Spain and in Italy, the army was a joke. And it was good that it was a joke, and it was not very seen as being aristocratic or a valuable job. But now that changed, and fair enough to those people, which are important. But it's a difficult shift of values than when you say, okay, I was on a discussion panel a couple of weeks ago. And I was as the president of ISEP, development aid, in my role there. And next to me there was a guy sitting from a company, from a defense company, and he said 3 years ago he wouldn't have been invited, or if he would have been here, because he invited himself, he would sit in the back of the room. and everybody would try not to be of any kind of photos with him because he would be the bad guy. He would be in with the tobacco people and stuff like that. And now he's on the podium and everybody's like, okay, what's going on? How can we defend each other? Well, how does it work? Do we need the Americans? Don't we need the Americans? What is it being neutral as Austria and so on and so on. So there's a huge shift of attitudes, of values, and fear. I mean, there's a lot of fear going on here. And I said this earlier, I think 20 years ago, when actually longer than that now, 30 years ago, when Eastern Europe opened up, and there was such an amazing joy in coming up of living in a different world after '89, and then there came the telecom revolution and the internet revolution, and everybody thought, okay, we're growing together, we don't need any borders anymore, you can connect with everybody. And we don't need a passport, and you can open companies and you can travel and you can work wherever you want, and it's not a problem at all. And I thought always, okay, the disadvantage of this is that everything in the end will look like Hilton and McDonald's. And now we don't have Hilton, but if that's the price for peace, that's fair enough and it's okay. But now we have McDonald's and Hilton, but no peace. So we have the worst of both worlds. And that sounds very negative. I think we really have to get our act together in being more optimistic, engaging yourself, standing up for the right issues, educating our children, grandchildren, trying to back up media again. And I mean, this what we are doing now is more than media, podcasting, standing up for the right thing, standing up for democracy, standing up, creating a new fourth pillar again in Europe, in the world. It's cracking in America extremely fast, as far as I can see it from here. So those are the issues in a nutshell.
Nice. Let's come back together. Go ahead, Ufig.
Is it possible just to add to what you said, Thomas? Because I think, of course, now both you and I, and also Jan, will speak from a very European perspective, and I'm sorry for that. But just saying that I can really mirror myself in what you said, Thomas, because what is extremely interesting is, but also troubling, is that the connection or the alliance relationship with the US is completely broken. What up till now has been a very important relationship between our part of the world and the more specific Denmark, US. Also on a personal level, I've been extremely colored by my life and my friends from the US. So it's like a very difficult divorce what we are seeing right now. And I'll come back to a more positive take on it, but just start with the more negative one. That up till now we have seen from Danish position that the US was our most important alliance partner, and now we see actually US as close to our enemy. They actually tried to conquer a part of Green. They wanted to invade Greenland. How crazy is that? One NATO member is going to invade another NATO member territory. So it's and there's been a vibe shift, completely vibe shift. It's like the American dream is dead. No one wants to visit US anymore. If I speak with my friends, even people who would like to see good football, upcoming football competition, maybe they'll go to Canada or Mexico. They don't want to buy tickets to US because no one likes the present government. People actually discuss, really can't really accept the way Trump is performing as a president. So there's a huge mistrust going on right now between Europe on one side and US on the other side. And I don't know how Latin America see that or Asia see that, but there's a completely mistrust. The positive side is that I see that Europe and EU members are actually starting to get together. You can also see a much more a bigger interest in how can the Scandinavian countries start to work much closer together. So there's a new awareness of being independent, be an independent region in the world, try to re-establish our own infrastructures, try to get independent from the tech SaaS in Silicon Valley, try to create new independent platforms, try to go up against that. We see that the whole democratic infrastructure has been privatized by a few tech companies in US. So there's also a positive movement right now. And my question to you guys is, how can we go through that process and not destroy the relationship to the good guys in the US, like you, Alan? So how can we keep a transatlantic bridge between Europe and US with what I would call the other America? And because something will happen after the midterms in November, hopefully, there'll be a future past the Trump area, hopefully. So how can we build a new kind of a transatlantic bridge between Europe and US? And I know, again, I started to say that I'm speaking from a Danish, Scandinavian, European perspective, and I'm curious how you see it, Oscar, and I'm curious to see how you see it from Singapore, because that's a major shift.
Yeah, let's hear from Tony and Oscar. And Jan, if you want to jump in too, and then I want to ask specifically about the war in Iran because I know Thomas mentioned inflation, energy prices, just the global dislocation that's come about. There are other wars, but at least from my point of view, what's dominating a lot of the undercurrent is does the war in Iran play all around the world, and what are the unintended consequences? But Ufi's asked a much broader question. Maybe we can talk about both the top line and the bottom line about U.S. global relations and also the impact of the Iran war specifically on people's lack of ability to feel secure or make plans, know what business decisions to make, what personal decisions to make in our own lives. Tony, what's it look like in Asia?
The trust with the US is very low. It's almost gone away. But there's a certain hope that maybe in about 10, 15 years, it will be different and it will come back or it will be in a new form. But for the next 15 years, Southeast Asia and Asia don't have that trust with the US. So it's driving a lot of security behaviors. For example, Singapore just signed a legally binding MOU with New Zealand, where we promise that even through times of war crisis, we will send our refined fuels to New Zealand because one third of the economy depends on our refined fuels, and they will send us food in return as well. We are all running around trying to build this bilateral, multilateral, ASEAN, different types of security links just to protect ourselves. But the other thing that's happening because of the US is that China's charm offensive has really gone up. And I'll give you a simple antidote where Singaporeans now are avoiding travel to the US, but they're going to all different cities around China for their usual June and December mid and end year holidays. China is winning a lot of people over by doing very little, by staying low, but being able to say, come and see us culturally, come and visit us. There's been a big shift there, and that is starting to become real for many of us.
Oscar, what about Brazil and South America?
You see that, you know that I lived in New York for in my initial career in banking before founding Mauna Kea. And I used to say that there are, in general, two different kinds of Americans. You know, the ones that are very ambitious and they try to build the empires, etc. And then you have very, very, very good people, you know, very ethical and very nice people. And these days, I think a little bit about what are the good Americans doing. And then I relate to something that was mentioned a few minutes ago about fear. Fear as the big, big issue that we have to deal with in our personal life and in a broad sense, even in a global sense. Because everything that's happening around in the global wars, we are very surprised in Brazil about how wars are escalating in the world. And some questions that we arise is what is UN doing? UN was created to prevent wars, global wars. And then you see that the empowerment of institutions are weakening. And what is the root causes of it? Competition. Competition. And we always say that if we decided to cooperate globally, it's amazing what we can build. But competition, even in schools, in business schools, we are incentivizing students to become very competitive. That's a big problem because all we used to say is every kind of competition bring in their inside the seed of wars. So if we don't realize that, we are going to continue to have problems. And as I see, for example, what's going on in the Trump administration, Elon knows that we started many years ago, actually, to see if you are going to decide, you have to be able to see the invisible. And so we invented this expression, invisible costs. For example, lack of respect in relationships is an invisible cost. And many times we executives do not address that problem within the organization, and it's affecting the results, but we don't do anything about it. So we talk about invisible assets. We have amazing, amazing, valuable things that we don't capitalize on. Even people with this style of being that aggregate people, like we are doing here. So this is an invisible cost, invisible asset. But one thing that we invented last year, looking at what's going on in the world, invisible effects of our decisions. So people are still deciding, not considering all the unpredictable effects of our decisions. And that's what's happening in the US administration. For example, they impelled by competition, impelled by economic gains, in everything, they are producing wars. But also, they are lacking to observe the invisible effects. For example, everything that United States is doing regarding the old-time allies is causing what? That the allies are getting close to China. So did U.S. consider that invisible or unpredictable effect of their decisions? Probably not. This is lack of wisdom. So this is what we need more in our world. We are all very, very concerned with peace. And whenever we talk about sustainability, I say we can become totally green, very, very, very well in terms of environment. But the planet can be destroyed by wars. Then people do not understand what sustainability is. Sustainability for me is to sustain life in the planet. And then we can see very clearly that if we don't start doing something to restore peace in the world, the planet will disappear. So this is when we go to the root causes of everything that's happening around the world, this ambition moved by competition becomes a highly valued universal value, competition, when maybe the really positive value is cooperation. So this is things that we have to address collectively to resolve from the root causes what's happening in the global arena. So
Oscar,
Hey,
Oscar,
hey.
you and
Whoa.
Ufi are playing from the same playbook, which is the old systems aren't working. Let's invent better new ones. Jan, before we wrap this up, what did you want to comment anything on the overall global take on things, the war in Iran, how it feels when from where you're sitting? Does it undermine the sense of peace and uh, possibility? Are we building something new and different?
Maybe we should not build something new. We should build something old, something that we know work. That was a long time ago since we had something that seemed to work or was on its way in the right direction. I applaud Oscar's summary of roots and causes. Let me. I'm jumping a little here. While Oscar was speaking, he talked about fear. And I wonder why, and maybe Alan, you could comment on that, why Americans seem more fearful than many other cultures. I give you one example. I used to be stationed in Uganda during Idi Amin's rule, and things became rather difficult, to say the least. So that different countries decided to evacuate their personnel, embassies and aid people and so on. Can you guess which nation was first to evacuate?
US.
Yeah. And can you guess which country was the last one to go?
Sweden,
Finland.
Finland.
And Finland. They don't seem to share the same, US and Finland don't seem to share the same definition of fear. I highly admire the president of Finland, who has lived with the possibility of very strong fear in their country because of their neighbor,
Russia.
Russia. But he takes a very pragmatic view on that. I think he and Oscar shares the same view of how to begin to address fear. Fear is a very dangerous disease. And what we need, Oscar, I applaud you again. We need more cooperation. And I'm sorry to say that to all of you, and including myself, who have dabbled in something called leadership development. I don't believe in that form of definition that most management consultants express. What we need is stewardship. We must take into consideration who empowered the leader, who is he responsible to, and we talk very little about that. Stewardship is something we could spend a whole program like this on in the coming events.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Hey, we're coming down to the last few minutes of this podcast. We've opened up so many interesting lines of conversation around the way the world feels right now, the way the U.S. is behaving, the way other countries are recasting their relationships around the world, and individually, what responsibilities each of us and our communities can undertake. Let me go around one more time, a quick whip around with some last words of what you take away from what we were just talking about, what you'd like to talk about next. Ufi, you mentioned things that aren't, I think you all talked about things that aren't on the front page but should be. People who aren't in the conversation and need to be. Subjects that are left out of our dialogues in our own individual communities, but also across the borders of this group of people who are global citizens and also in touch with what's happening in your own communities. Uh, what are some takeaways quickly from this conversation? We scheduled this for an hour. It's almost an hour on the clock. A quick summary. Thomas, what do you have? We'll just go quickly around.
Well, I think one of the thoughts I really would like to follow up, and which is really important, is how to re-establish, and I emphasize re-establish, the relationship between Europe and the United States, and how can we prepare for a post-Trump era, which we don't know how it will look like. Will it be sort of a prolonging of this crew of people, or will it be different people? And I think it's dangerous and very definitely not good for the common good if Europe and the United States don't sail in the same direction. To put a quote from The Godfather. There's always have to be a quote of The Godfather in the podcast. That's seriously a big issue. I think the ties between Canada and Europe became now much closer, which is great. I'm in favor, by the way, that Canada should join the European Union. That would be fantastic. And then, of course, we have to do something to integrate Europe much better than it's currently integrated. And how we do that is, we have to count on the young people for the next generation, make student programs, more traveling, engaging. America brought so much good into the world over the last century, and we should be careful to reestablish this force of good.
Tony, what is the balance between fear and hope that you see in Asia right now?
Two quick reactions. First, Oscar, brilliant insight. I think what used to be visible was courage. I think courage has become a lot invisible these days. And without courage, fear always wins. And fear keeps winning if no one wants to have the courage. And we don't see courage even in our area of the world. And we see a lot of fears in scenario planning, trying to figure out where the US is going to do next. How is Japan following, like Germany, remilitarization themselves? How is the Taiwan Straits going to pan out with the Chinese? There is no courage. There's just scenario planning on fear and trying to get as much hunkering down as we can. The second point I just want to close off is Asia is getting closer than ever before. We are cooperating, but we're cooperating through fear. We are trying to create a lot more trade links, routes, pathways among ourselves, trying to imagine a world without the US. Because it might last 10, it might last 15. Because when trust goes away, cooperations do emerge, but in very, very different ways, only among your close friends and no longer with people who are not like you and people who are different from you.
Thanks, Tony. Jan, I'm going to go to Jan, then I'm going to go to Oscar and Ufi. I'll give you the last word. You can point us in the next direction. So, Jan, what's we've touched on fear, we've touched on historical relationships, new relationships, uncertainty. What any takeaways that you want to leave us with from this podcast?
I would like to end up in the old saying, "Small is beautiful." Joining forces with Oscar, the competition is deadly because it destroys our minds. We ought to focus on what unites us rather than what separates us. But the stories that we hear and maybe tell all come to the differences. It must be better material, Alan, for a journalist to speak about what separates us than what unites us.
Ufi, you get to wrap this up. You're my
No,
co
don't give me
my
that. Don't
co-host
give me that
my
responsibility. But
my co-host from Denmark. Come on,
nah,
what?
no, no shit, no, no. Just a few reflection. One is that I'm actually missing your viewpoint, Alan. We all the rest of us has talked about
Yes.
that something broken in the relationship with the U.S. and you are the only one representing U.S. So I'm actually missing your story or your view about what is happening. So I hope that we can hear that more in the next episode, so to speak. Then a second reflection is that I have, and the way I hear the other people in this talk, saying that the old system is dying. And there's a famous quote from Gramsci, Italian communist, saying that the old system is dying and the new system is not still very strong and not been born. And this intermedium, the monsters are coming in, and that's what you see right now. There are monsters in the US with Trump. You have monsters in Russia with Putin. You have monsters in China. And you have Modi in India, and so on. So this is a time for monsters. But on a more positive note, I also see the new system is actually trying to be born, and what I could really be curious about. Where do you see the new system being born in your part of the world? Because here in Denmark, I see a lot of good stuff is happening, but it just goes under the radar. And that's my focus these days, because I'm starting to get old, and I don't know how the medium age in your part of the world is, but in Denmark it's around 80-year-old. So I can see I have 8 years back. So what would I spend my 8 years on? What should my focus be? And my focus completely is on the new system builders in all kinds of fields in society. So I would like to hear your opinion on that the next time. And then I would really, really like to hear your voice, Alan, to see how do you see the world from the inside the belly of the beast as US. So what is happening? I need your voice, and just to finally, my end note is that I was so happy to hear how Bruce Springsteen talked at his concert in LA just for a few days ago. Oh, that way of US power, cultural power, as Bruce Springsteen was able to manifest. Let's hear more about that.
I agree.
Yeah. Well, there's a lot. There's a lot to cover, and I can certainly chip in the future. I think I wanted to just let anybody who has the benefit of watching and listening to this podcast get to meet what a remarkable group of people you are, and how blessed I am to have you all as friends and colleagues and fellow people taking this journey at this time together. It's I do feel like love is the dominant thing that ties us together. We can disagree, we can make jokes, we can have fun. Oscar, you are my brother from another mother. It's absolutely true. I know people don't see our physical perception, but deep inside we are that way. And I think that's what ties us together, and that's what makes this conversation so worthwhile. There's brain power, but there's also love power in this dialogue. So we're a little over time from what we scheduled. We didn't get Adrian to join us from the UK. We'll do that. We had a technical glitch that happens. But what a great and rewarding way to spend some time with friends talking about important subjects and being very candid about what's going on in your neck of the woods, but also looking globally around the world. What do we have to work on? Is there a new system being born? Where do we see it? Are there new versions of leadership that we should embrace? I'm so impressed with the way you guys come up with the language to describe where we are. It's so much more uh, subtle, nuanced, thoughtful, carefully crafted than what we get in most of the dialogue that is just people shouting at each other and trying to raise the temperature. Uh, being careful in the way we talk and thoughtful in the way we talk makes a big difference. And I think people benefit when they're in the presence of calm, thoughtful, creative voices. So I'm going to sign off. Adam Weber, thank you for being our podcast guru. You're working the
Welcome.
green room. You're on the technical side. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
And we'll do our best to do another. We'll schedule this. We'll get the time differences right around the world. We'll make sure the technology is tested. We'll work on the sound effects and the visuals, and stay tuned for podcast 2.0. Thank you, everybody.
And we just
Take
thank you.
care. Stay well.
Bye bye.
Adios,
Bye-bye.
amigos.